I never thought a simple text could unravel my entire world, but that's exactly how it began. My name is Daniel, and I had been married to Rachel for 5 years. From the outside, we looked perfect. Our friends envied our connection, family admired our bond, and strangers often complimented our closeness. But appearances can be deceiving. Behind the smiles, behind the "we're fine" texts, there were secrets. Secrets that would hit me harder than anything I had imagined. It started on a Friday evening. I had planned a surprise. Tickets to a show she had mentioned months ago and a quiet dinner afterward. I left work early, excited, imagining the look on her face when she walked in. My phone buzzed as I pulled into the parking lot. I glanced at the screen. It was Rachel. Her message was short, casual, almost careless. Stuck at the office party. Sleeping at a colleague's tonight. Don't wait up. A chill ran down my spine. First, I tried to rationalize. Office parties run late. Maybe she had no ride. Maybe the colleague was a friend. But something in her tone, the casual dismissal, triggered a warning bell in my gut. I had been sensing subtle changes for weeks. Longer hours, guarded phone calls, unusual wardrobe choices, unexplained absences. I wanted to ignore it, to trust her, to believe the life we had built together was intact. But instinct, that quiet, insistent voice, told me otherwise. By the time I reached the office complex where she claimed to be, I was already late. But there she was, or rather she wasn't. I waited, hidden in the shadows, watching as the night unfolded. The parking lot slowly emptied, leaving only a few stragglers. And then I saw him. Jason, a colleague she had often mentioned casually at work, walking toward the entrance with her, their closeness unmistakable. Every detail confirmed what my instincts had been screaming. She had lied. She wasn't just stuck at the party. She was with him. I didn't rush in. I didn't confront. In situations like this, anger can cloud judgment. I stayed hidden, observing, noting, processing. I knew exactly what I had to do. And it wasn't about a public scene or dramatic exposure. It was about reclaiming control, gathering evidence, and preparing for the moment when the truth would no longer be avoidable. I watched them leave together, her laughing, his arm around her, completely unaware that I was already waiting, already seeing everything she had tried to hide. By the end of the night, I had my plan. This wasn't about revenge in the moment, it was about strategy. She had broken trust, and the consequences would be carefully measured, undeniable, and final. I would not plead, I would not argue. I would act with precision, and when the time came, she would learn that deceit, no matter how cleverly hidden, always comes to light. The next morning, I sat in my car outside our apartment, replaying every moment from the night before. My hands rested on the steering wheel, steady, but my mind raced. I didn't want chaos, I wanted clarity, a path that left no room for excuses or denial. Rachel had underestimated me, underestimated the consequences of her choices, and that miscalculation would define the next steps. I had a plan. First, gather undeniable evidence. Her text messages, his call logs, the GPS check-ins she thought I hadn't noticed, all meticulously documented. Every lie she had told, every alibi she had constructed, now existed in a format impossible to deny. By noon, I had compiled a folder of everything, ready to be delivered to the people who needed to see the truth. Her parents, our closest friends, anyone who had ever trusted her words. Not to humiliate, not to shame, but to reveal reality. Trust, once shattered, demands acknowledgement. When Rachel finally returned, she was oblivious to the storm waiting. She walked in casually, expecting normalcy. I didn't greet her. I didn't smile. Instead, I placed my phone on the counter, showing her the evidence of her affair. Her eyes widened, disbelief mingled with panic. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I didn't speak. The silence carried the weight of months of deception, and for the first time, she understood that her carefully constructed world was crumbling. Then I confronted Jason. I didn't shout, I didn't curse. One precise, calculated confrontation made him realize immediately the gravity of his actions. He had assumed he could manipulate the situation, that my marriage could be trespassed without consequence. He was wrong. The moment of physical assertion wasn't about violence, it was about sending a message. Betrayal is never without cost. By the time I left, both of them knew the consequences, and I had reclaimed control over a life they had tried to manipulate. I spent the evening preparing the next step: legal closure. Divorce papers were drafted, filed, and served with precision. This wasn't vengeance, it was protection, ensuring that the remnants of trust and dignity she had destroyed would be formally recognized and preserved. Ghosting her wasn't cruelty. It was a shield, a necessary barrier between my life and the chaos she had invited into it. By the time night fell, I had packed my essentials, ready to remove myself entirely from her orbit. Every object, every memory, was a potential anchor to the past she had poisoned. I didn't need dramatics or confrontation. My disappearance was deliberate, final, and unshakable. She would eventually grasp the full impact of her betrayal, but I would already be gone, free from the weight of her deceit. The drive away from our apartment that night felt surreal. The city lights blurred as I navigated empty streets, each mile separating me from the life I thought I had. Rachel's laughter, the warmth of our shared nights, the illusion of trust, they all faded behind me. With every turn, the burden of betrayal lessened, replaced by a rare sense of liberation. She had chosen her lies, I chose my freedom. Over the next few days, I disappeared completely. No calls, no texts, no social media updates. The silence was a balm, a chance to exist without reminders of her deception. I stayed off the radar intentionally because any contact, even her desperate attempts at apologies, would only tether me back to the betrayal I refused to endure. Ghosting her wasn't cruelty. It was self-preservation. She had weaponized trust and intimacy, and now the only defense was disappearance. In parallel, I finalized the legal steps. Divorce became not only a formal separation, but also a symbolic assertion of my autonomy. I wasn't acting in anger or spite. I was acting to protect my future, to ensure that her choices wouldn't continue to dictate my life. Each signature, each form filed, reinforced the finality of her actions. There was no coming back from this. Betrayal had a cost, and she had fully incurred it. Weeks turned into months. I rebuilt routines, focused on work, and surrounded myself with friends who reminded me of life beyond deception. Thoughts of Rachel and Jason no longer controlled my day. They were memories, lessons, and warnings. Occasionally, I imagined her realizing the magnitude of what she had done. The broken trust, the ruined connections, the man she had underestimated. She had believed her secret safe, her escape guaranteed, but she had miscalculated in the most crucial way, underestimating the consequences of her betrayal. As the months passed, a sense of peace emerged. The pain remained, lingering like a shadow that visits long after a storm, but it no longer dictated my choices. Rachel's actions, her affair, the lies, all became a closed chapter. I had confronted the reality, exposed the truth, and walked away. Not as a victim, but as someone who refused to let deceit define their life. The confrontation, the evidence, the disappearance, the divorce. It was all part of reclaiming my story, my dignity, and my future. Standing at the edge of a quiet park, I realized the truth. Betrayal destroys trust, but it also creates strength. Walking away, disappearing, leaving everything behind wasn't cowardice. It was a declaration of self-worth, a refusal to be controlled by the actions of someone else. Rachel and her choices no longer had power over me. In stepping away, I had reclaimed my life, my integrity, and most importantly, myself. The lesson was clear. Trust is sacred, deceit has consequences, and freedom is the reward for choosing yourself over lies.